Good morning, everybody. Thought I'd do a quick walkthrough of the garden, show you guys everything that's grown this year. This is a swamp mallow. It's like a hibiscus. Grows wild up here on the swamp in Toledo. It does pretty well. Patio peach really took off this year. A couple roses in the back. Daylilies, another patio peach. Tried to do some flowering trees this year. They're doing pretty well so far. Got my potatoes in the back. Tried some Clancy potatoes from seed. They started in my greenhouse and then they all died once I transplanted them. So I just went back to the old-fashioned way. Just put some seed potatoes in here. They're doing pretty well. I think they're red Lesotho or Yukon. Can't remember what I got. Guess I'll find out in a couple weeks when I harvest. But as you can see in the front, nothing. I planted direct seed. I got some replacements and they never came up. A mulberry tree, it's doing alright. It's growing a little bit more. The late freeze really did damage to it. There was a mulberry on here probably a couple weeks ago, but I think the birds got it. My garlic and onion bed, this really took off this year. I've already harvested some garlic. I'm replanting some onion bottoms. Sometimes they take, sometimes they don't. But the garlic in the front is really doing well. It's pretty close. I think it has to lose about a third of the leaves. I've been cutting off the tips and cooking them, sauteing them with onions. They're really good. But this is a hardneck variety I got on eBay. My blackberry bushes, they're doing really well this year. They're going to be transplanted out of here, so I've been sticking them in the ground, and then I'll cut them at the base over here, dig them up over here. They'll have less roots, make it easier to transplant next year, and I'll still get berries. Oh, I got some that are turned. Look at that. There's some monster blackberries on here. These things are huge. Couple different flowers, stonecrop, lamb's ear, purple basil, yarrow, hydrangea, and then purple heart. You probably saw in another video when I was transplanting the spiderwort. It does pretty well. It's easy to transplant. They look good in hanging baskets. Some hostas. My rhubarb I transplanted. I was trying to do a little crop of it up here, but started some from seed. Yeah, this is all transplants from last year. Some of the seed is just taking its sweet time. That's the seed. That's from seed. So I'll have to get some roots next year and do it. Some turnips. You know, if all else fails, I could just be a turnip farmer. They come up really easily. Didn't really have to do anything to them. Just put them in my cold frame. Started them, I think, in April. And I've been harvesting a little bit every day. Put them in some soups. And boy, they're tasty. They're the silky sweet variety. I highly recommend them. Carrots. They're in there among the weeds. So that's where my greenhouse is going to be in the fall. Took the plastic off because it's too hot for some of the cold weather plants. It's a closer look. I've got some cilantro growing here, some cabbage or other collard greens. I can't remember what I grabbed. I got these at Menards. The lettuce is pretty good. I did that from seed. That's doing pretty good from seed. I had to fence it off because the rabbit kept going in there and eating its stuff, or eating my stuff. The asparagus I planted, I did this from seed. It's starting to really take off. I did a whole row of it by my garage, as I figured it'll be there forever now, perennial. Some strawberries in front of it. Didn't really have too much success with strawberries this year though. Cold weather didn't really do its thing. These are sweet banana peppers. Had some left over. Some celery. This survived the freeze. I don't know how. Thought it was like peppers where it needed hot weather. Didn't really do much. Just covered it with a styrofoam cup. Obviously it's really small, but still alive. Okay, off to the tree garden. So this is my crabapple tree. What I've done is I've started grafting on it. I did that, I think last year is the first year I did it. I've got some nice ones that are taken. They should produce fruit. Here's an example of one. I just used electrical tape. It's about the best you can do using electrical tape. So it was flowering earlier, but the fruit, I think it just fell off. There was no other pollinator. But as you can see, it's got green growth. I think that was a Mutsu. These grafts did not take. I was experimenting. I tried those in December just to see if I could do it. No, they froze. The roots, or the cambium layer, got damaged probably by the cold. The best graft that I had was this big one right here. As you can see, it's grafted down there and shoots way far up there. It's even got some new growth on it, so next year that should do well. Here's a graft from last year. It's doing all right. This one really took off. See, it's a lot bigger. I think that's a red delicious. So here's my apple trees, volunteer sunflower. It's growing bigger than any of the ones I planted from seed. Some giant cucumbers. I don't know if they're going to be giant or not. That was my kiwi plant. Yeah, this thing's probably about 5 feet tall right now. Here we are, second week in July. Some raspberries growing over here. These I just dug out of the woods because we live over by a nature preserve and there's tons of wild stuff that grows in our woods just because everything's been untouched out here. Some more strawberries, a couple apple trees. My blueberries, they seem to kind of wilt. I think they're dead. I just planted those this year. Some peach trees, my cherry trees. Everything seems to be growing all right. Peach trees look like they're hurting a little bit. I transplanted those late last year. Giant pumpkin. We'll see how big it grows. I've got one lonely apple on this tree. I think this is my red delicious. This is what I grafted over on my crabapple over there. Some nectarines. I do have some growing. I just picked this one up from one of the box stores. It had some fruit growing on it. Same as that one, another nectarine tree. We should get some nectarines. Some more raspberries along the fence here. Alright, this is my sweet corn this year. I got the Silver Queen variety. It's doing the best that I've ever done, I guess, with the sweet corn. It's starting to take off. I've had to side dress it with some algae out of the pond. This is called chara. I just drag it out of the back of the pond and figured it's full of nitrogen because it's all green, so it's what corn likes. Seems to like it. It's a little wavy up and down. There's a couple low spots, I think, in the mulch, but overall I think they'll all produce ears. I think there's about 160 of them out there. Here's some peppers. Got some jalapenos. They're kind of hard to see, but everything's really small this year, real stunted. Got some green bell peppers. This one's doing pretty well. It finally took off. And then my legend tomatoes. I put a ton of these in the ground. They're doing pretty good. Like I said, everything's kind of stunted, but I was spraying for some weeds a couple days ago, and unfortunately I got some drift on a couple of these tomatoes, like this one. It's probably not going to make it. But for the most part, you know, I've got a couple hundred tomatoes out here, so I'm not too worried about a few. For some reason they seem to do really well in these 2 rows at the end or on each side. And then I've got some watermelons. These are Bradford, Jubilee, and Sugar Babies. They're all mixed together. That way I can save seeds and come up with something different next year. And then I think this is bok choy and some kale. The slugs keep eating it, so I was treating it with some BT because I do all organic up here. And the BT wasn't working. They kept losing leaves every day and getting holes in them. One day I saw it was a slug. It wasn't a caterpillar, so I started treating it with diatomaceous earth instead, and that seemed to do the trick. Everything seems to be growing a little bit better now. So, alright, so that is my garden. I've got a couple more things in the back, but it's just some watermelon under some mulch, zucchini and stuff. But overall, this is where the majority of the food will be coming from. I'll be making some more of my tomato sauce this year for spaghetti, so I'm definitely excited about that. Alright, so this is my back to Eden garden, and this is the easy way to do things.